Hello, everybody. This is old Dr. Gaines, your pal, one half of the Ink and Echo show, and I'm here at the moment without Andy to introduce this episode, so I can do whatever I want. And that tall guy with his prominent nose can't interrupt. I also have a prominent nose. Anyhow, the reason I'm here speaking to you, dear listener, is to tell you that I have an old laptop. It's older than my marriage, in fact. I bought it in 2008, and it's getting up in years. It's the MacBook with something. And while I was recording Levi's episode, it crapped out on me. While I was recording this episode that you're about to hear, it crapped out on me again. And basically, I recorded a high-fidelity audio file. And when I went to give it to Andy, my computer said, "No, thank you, Mr. Josh. I am not going to work for you." And then it, in front of my eyes, tore that audio in half and destroyed it. So it was almost unusable. All that to say, my audio is not up to par because Andy had to record the Skype call and put me in there. So I sound like I'm coming from outer space, and he sounds like he's in a beautiful studio, which is actually his cave of a bedroom. Hey, folks, if you like our show, please go rate it on iTunes and leave us a review. Those are fantastically helpful. And you guys have said some beautiful, lovely, wonderful things on there. So thank you for that. Man, with all this freedom, I just kind of want to do something else that Andy wouldn't let me do. Even though he would probably allow me to do anything. He might just cut this out. I know. I'll tell you a little anecdote about this show and something idiotic that I've done. I've been misusing the word benign in place of banal. I've been saying benign when I actually mean banal. And I'll bet Megan is glad that she married Andy because Josh Gaines is a grammatical idiot. So a few times on this show I've used the word benign, which means gentle and kindly, when I'm actually trying to say something that is overused to the point of being boring and cliche. So sorry, internet, everybody out there who heard me say that and with your little monocle on said, Joshua, you are incorrect in the usage of that word. Okay, I'm going to get out of here. Enjoy this episode of Ink and Echo, number 15, where we talk about Bo Burnham and Pete Holmes and a whole lot of stuff about how you should never use technology again because it's killing us. Hey, all right. Hey, I'm Josh. I'm out of here. Pow, 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 pow.
Hey, Josh, I want to give a disclaimer on this episode. Is that okay?
Okay, please do. Yep.
I slept horribly last night and basically have been up since like 1 a.m. So
it is currently 9 p.m.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
At the time we're recording this, yeah.
Yes. So I just want to go ahead and give myself what I'd like to, I don't know if this is going to work, but if I do anything stupid, if I lose my train of thought, if I basically just say anything dumb, I'm going to ding myself. So that'll be a sign of like, I'm going to start over or just end whatever's happening. That's what I'm just going to utilize that.
It's kind of like a game show. I kind of wish I had the dinger.
Yeah, so it'd actually be more fun if you could sense that I was going off the rails and you could just ding me out of it.
I could just use my voice to do that and say.
Or like actually
redirect you.
Yeah, you could. It's not quite as good entertainment.
No, it isn't.
Hey, I was thinking this is the first episode that's just you and me since the beginning-ish.
Since a while. Yeah, it's a hostful.
Oh, okay, that's what I was going to say. We need to come up with a name for him because Nerdist has hostful, which is a good name and word.
We could just say this is a Goodboy show.
That's... Yeah. Actually, that's pretty perfect.
Because it's just the good boys.
Just the good boys here hanging out.
No other outside influences.
The good boys here. Yeah.
Andy, real quick before we start, I just want to make sure
We've
our
already
audio
started,
levels are.
but okay.
Oh yeah. I just want to make sure this is okay for the mics.
Uh-huh.
Just tell me if you can hear this. I'm pretty sure you won't be able to, but
Okay. Yeah.
can you hear that?
Nope.
Can you hear that at all?
Nope.
Okay, good. I just I had to kind of rush home tonight and
So you're chomping.
didn't get to eat much, so I'm just having some tortilla chips.
Great.
I just wanted to make sure it's not a problem.
No, it's perfect for the Yeah, we really respect our listeners, so we don't want to have any extraneous noise or mouth noises. And I'm glad those aren't being picked up tonight.
Yeah, no plosives.
Plosives.
No plosives
I'm glad you know that word now.
because of you.
Uh-huh. Well, hi, Josh.
Hi.
We were both. Well, I told you to listen to a podcast with Burnham. Actually, it was what the hell's his name? Pete Holmes' podcast called "You Made It Weird."
Right.
And
yeah, a month or weeks ago, probably 5 weeks ago.
Yes.
You told me this.
And it's like a 3-hour-long behemoth of a podcast. But I just had so many things go through my head because of that podcast, and I'm glad you listened because it sounded like the same thing happened to you.
Oh yeah.
So I don't know if do you feel like it'd be a good use of time to jump in and kind of just be a podcast discussing another podcast at least for a little bit, and then we'll see what happens.
Well, yeah. At the very least, I would honestly encourage our listeners to go seek out the Pete Holmes podcast and listen to the Bo Burnham number 3 episode, which is long.
Yes,
but this episode almost exists because of that one.
Right.
Because Bo Burnham is on the same page with Andy and I on a lot of things.
And he's much smarter and more eloquent than at least me. That's why it was fun listening to. And honestly, the thing that really struck me about it and maybe was the most compelling is the fact that he's a comedian, if that wasn't clear, and Pete Holmes is a comedian as well. So they talk about stand-up stuff and cultural things. But the thing that really, I think, got me is because throughout the whole 3 hours, you get such a wide view of his thoughts. And even at a lot of points, you got to a point where he just was at the end of his thinking and he's like, yeah, I don't know where to go after this. You know, it's like, so you hear him, like he was obviously passionate about the things he was talking about and they've been on his mind, but then the conversation went to places that he's like, yeah, I don't have any more after this kind of. And plus,
right,
there were moments where he would almost contradict himself, which I loved. So he'd say, like, there was a part where he was saying, you know, we need David Letterman back. We need someone like him to kind of tear down celebrities instead of kind of pander to them. But then later on in the show, he was like, yeah, we irony's dead, basically. And they kind of talked a little bit about how those ideas were kind of at odds. And then all of those things combined with the fact that there are so many moments where you can just hear his like hand on his face, like he goes away from the mic and he's just like, like he,
right, being self-conscious in the moment,
right,
and figuring out his own viewpoints live on the microphone, you know, through talking them out. Yes.
So just overall, I think that's why that thing was so compelling. I don't know if I've ever heard someone be so, like, hear someone speak at the edge of their opinions or knowledge like that.
It's a fascinating episode because Bo is a guy who has a very large amount of fame at this point in his life, and he's only 26, so he's younger than either of us.
Right.
And he just seems to have an incredible amount of awareness and sensitivity and even disdain for the culture that he himself is a part of.
Right.
And I don't know, there were so many things that he said that were helpful, and I honestly think little tiny things like that can help subtly
Yes.
change the culture, ripple through the culture.
Well, what were some of the things specifically that you thought were most interesting or meaningful, helpful, whatever?
Yeah. One, I actually liked that he called out people who constantly smoke weed
Yes.
every day. Not because I have a moral obligation against it, but just because I have seen that happen to my friends.
Right, which he was basically saying, you know, that we've gone the wrong way potentially, and in saying like, oh, it's so much, it's like good for you. Whereas he was just saying, you know, anytime you're doing something every day, you basically got to step back and be aware of who you are without it, even if it's quote unquote good for you or just not bad for you. Yeah.
Right. Yeah, and that could go for many things. That could go for
Yeah.
alcohol. That could even go for social media or
fast
being on the
food.
internet. You
Yeah.
know. Yeah, exactly. Just having the discipline to be able to pull away from things that you notice yourself using a lot that are potentially unhealthy, and I mean maybe give those things up altogether if you're better
Right.
without them. But it was just interesting to hear that.
Yeah.
And the other thing I would say that stuck with me was that he was calling out very large actors, or they don't even need to be very large, but just very talented people. Yeah, celebrities basically, who have done beautiful films, have done very good work, and yet they also sort of go do these stupid things on late shows and just act like idiots,
Right?
And just in order to get some trending video or some viral tweet or something that is very the opposite of art, and that is purely in the moment for 24 hours, and then it's gone, and it's essentially useless.
Right.
And, it's not going to change or challenge anyone.
Right. And he was talking about how it's that kind of stuff has somehow turned out to be more important than whatever they created. So, I mean, he was talking about how the most memorable thing is the press. It's little viral things that come out of the press tour instead of their actual performance in the movie or whatever they're doing. Which,
right.
And that kind of goes back to, at least at the beginning, what he was talking about, which is that it's really interesting because there's a lot of parallels I can take away from a comedian, and there's some things that kind of, at least in my case, I can't just do a one-to-one like, yeah, that's what this is in my case, just because he's close to celebrity. He mentioned how they're like in bed, comedians and celebrity things like that. And so that's kind of why he can speak into those things, because he's there and dealing with it. And so I just say that to say, I mean, I feel like I can't really make any conjectures on what it's like or even necessarily what's happening, but he's the kind of guy I feel like you can trust because he's there, and that's part of his job is to be dealing with that stuff. So I don't really know where I was going with that, but just the way all the stuff ties together was really interesting. And the way things potentially, because I don't deal with necessarily ideas or words or thoughts or celebrity, and so there are things that he said, I mean, in a general sense, that I either can't take away, like that doesn't really apply to me, or that I don't get it, but I have to believe that he does. Does that make sense? Kind of? Am I just being weird? Do I need to ding myself?
Yeah. No, it does make sense. Yeah, and I'm trying to think of a way to tie this back around for our listeners. It's almost like if you, as lowercase noises, if someone offered you a large amount of money, or maybe even not that, but a large amount of exposure to do something that was very not what you've built.
Yeah.
something very outside of your art form, but it's like, hey, you're gonna get 30,000 new people
Right.
or something.
Someone asked me to
And
do a
you,
lip sync battle.
yeah, just something very silly. That at least your personality and mine would tend to bristle against that and just go, no, that's not right. That's not what we're doing this for. That's not what we're
Right.
doing art for. And it's also not to be snooty
Yeah.
and highfalutin and say there's never time for joking or comedy, but it's just
Right.
that I guess it's sort of the modern version of selling out, so to speak,
Right.
of just letting yourself be diluted down to something foolish and pointless, when you're trying to actually put something good into the world.
Right. And I think he touched on that too. And he was very upfront in saying, I mean, his words were basically, I was given my fan base on a silver platter. Um, and basically referring to he came up on YouTube and had some viral stuff and almost basically it sounds like had a huge fan base. I mean, not overnight, but in that sense of the word. And I feel like there's some similarity there to me in the sense that not that it happened overnight or remotely at the scale that it did for him, but we both started doing a thing and didn't really have to compromise at all along the way. And so he's speaking from, and he even said, a place of privilege, which I am too, of, he can talk this stuff, he can say this stuff because he doesn't have to have those ties. He specifically said, he's like, I'm probably not going to be able to do any talk shows anymore because of this or whatever.
Yeah.
But it's interesting to realize both the privilege and, the fact that I don't know, him and I don't really mean to conflate us and say that I'm on the same level at all, but just I have the freedom, and that gives someone like him or me the ability to look around and sort of point out maybe people who don't and who are doing shitty things as a result of whatever's happened to them, for better or for worse.
Yeah, it's a weird line, and I don't know how much benefit there would be in calling people out, but what you just said made me think about if you were a very different person, you could have recognized early on that, oh, a pedal demo video gets a lot of views, or like a cover video, you covering another person's song gets a lot of views, and you could have had this different trajectory of kind of really digging into that and just doing that only. And I know your personality never would have, but there's other people who are doing that exact same thing right now.
Right. Well, and to be honest, like I did that a little bit, and it would be silly to say I didn't. I mean, specifically about the pedal stuff, I will say that over the course of my YouTube arc or whatever you want to call it, I do honestly think that I've tried to always at least keep a creative musical aspect to everything I do.
Yeah.
But there was a period where I very much did realize, like, hey, if I cater to guitar players and their love of the tools, the pedals, that's gonna, and even stuff I noticed, if I upload a video and the thumbnail has my pedal board in it, it's gonna get way more views. And over time, that just got to be a sickening feeling. It basically, and I didn't do it maliciously. I was just kind of like, oh, here's something that works in like a business sense, which isn't necessarily wrong, but it's just over time, I sort of realized, like, if I keep going this way, I'm gonna be looking back and say, this isn't what I set out to do, and I just feel gross, and I didn't want to do that stuff anymore. So I feel like I just need to, I'm not just some guy who didn't deal with that at all, because I think I very much did. And I think that's why I have such an aversion to some of that stuff now, because I really want to hold on to what I have, and I want to be able to not feel gross about myself. And I think that's a lot of what he was saying in that segment anyway.
So just speak to social media in general right now.
You're asking me to?
We'll explore it together, Andy.
Okay. I wrote down a few things from the podcast, and one of them has to do with the social media thing, and I really like it. Do you want me to say what the quote is?
Great.
Basically, he was talking directly about social media, and he said, the quote is, "The fame monster came down and is now haunting all of us." So I think if I remember the context correctly, he was, talking about the perils of fame, which, that's not a, it's not a new topic, but just basically saying, everyone can get a taste of that now. And he said, like, a high schooler who gets 2,000 retweets on a tweet that went viral or something, like, that person has some status now because of that, or, same thing with Instagram or whatever. So that, it's always fascinating to me, because I feel like a lot of people, social media sucks. It feels kind of bad and blah, blah, blah. But when someone like him can articulate a little more clearly why, and even down to the mechanism of it, so that we can actually see what's happening, I feel like that kind of, because both you and I feel pretty gross about it a lot of the time, and I feel like it kind of clicked and was interesting to hear him articulate it that way. That's just that everyone is searching for fame, and we all get the bad parts of it, even as someone who isn't necessarily famous, which feels really insidious and kind of nasty,
Yeah. And perhaps not even searching for fame, but just searching for some affirmation that they matter,
right,
as a human,
right,
and feeling like something of theirs going viral, confirming that, and that isn't true or real, but it feels like it is in a social landscape.
Right.
That's a big one.
Yeah.
Because, it's curious to me that there are more famous, quote unquote, people than ever, and that there are many subtle layers of fame.
You're talking like niche stuff versus the huge people?
Yeah. Yeah. Obviously, there are sort of A-list celebrities that are sort of the gods of our culture.
Right.
That they're household names. Everybody knows who they are. But you can also be YouTube famous. You can be Twitter famous. You can be Instagram famous. You can have enormous followings of people,
right,
and even be making your living off of these things.
Mm-hmm.
And that's just really strange. And in a way, the playing field is a little more leveled. When we were little kids, the thought of a conversation with, I don't know, some enormous actor seemed impossible. It's like, we're down here. This is even what we're saying. And like the gods are over there, and we can't cross paths or touch them.
Right.
And now, even with things like podcasts, like Mark Maron or like The Nerdist or whatever, we're realizing that, for one thing, celebrities are just people.
Yeah.
And also, I don't know where I'm going with this. Maybe you should ding me. But it's just, it's different than when we were kids. I guess that's all I can say. And different even than from maybe the 50s, when Hollywood became kind of a very noticeable entity, and actors became an entity. And I don't know. I just think the status of celebrities is kind of coming back down to earth in a weird way, and yet they're still trying to cling to it.
Well, and maybe the gross part of it is, like, I feel like it's a really good thing that the gap is closing, at least from the celebrity end. Like, it's really good that someone like you or I can listen to a podcast and be like, oh, Sarah Jessica Parker is actually a really nice woman and she seems smart and cool,
Sure.
you know, which I would have never thought otherwise. And that's a good thing for me to feel and know. But the other part of the gap closing is the rising of everyone else on social media, the normals, the normal people, you know, and us trying to come up, maybe unknowingly or unconsciously, towards that celebrity thing, the fame thing via Instagram, Facebook, whatever, is the bad part of it. And I guess so question for you, buddy, and
Okay.
I don't even know if I can answer this question, but maybe looking at social media as a whole, or if you want to pick a service, you can. But do you think net good or bad overall, in terms of like humanity?
Oh, wow. I would have to say net bad on all of them.
Okay. But can you say
and
why?
Yet,
I mean, because, you know, we could be just seen as the old guys who are just, maybe we don't get it. And we're just,
no.
I know, I'm just playing devil's advocate because I think I agree with you. But, you know, it'd be interesting if you could articulate why. And if you can't, that's fine. I'll ding you.
Yeah. Okay. Thank you. Oh man, dang it.
I'm sorry, you were about to start.
Yes, I was. It's gotta be net bad. I mean, the only
gotta
possibly it's gotta be. There are good things. I see. This lends well to a podcast because I'm just sitting here thinking forever because there are a lot of thoughts that go with.
We're at the edge of your personal knowledge and opinion. That's great.
Yeah, obviously, all of them have done some good.
Right.
I think that Facebook has maybe connected people, long lost friends, relatives, you know, new acquaintances, whatever, in ways that wouldn't have been possible without the internet. Sure, that's great. Twitter tends to be a good way of just letting people know about things that maybe they missed elsewhere.
Right.
Instagram is good for showing people how much better your life is than theirs, and
yeah.
Oh dear. Yeah. I mean, it's a weird thing because I can call it all out as bad, and yet I am so damn addicted to it myself.
Let me take a shot at something specific. So let's look at Twitter. Maybe I was thinking about it earlier today, and I was thinking about because I've spoken previously. I don't remember when, but you know, about how, you know, communication, every type of communication other than a face-to-face thing is like a trade-off of something, ease of use or instantaneous conversation.
Yeah.
A trade-off of that versus you're taking something away from a human face-to-face conversation. And Twitter really is valuable for a lot of things. So you've got the constraint of 140 characters, and the instantaneousness of it, the throwawayness of it. God, those are terrible words. Basically, it's like, okay, the tweets are small. You can throw them away. I feel like it's really good for some things, but as human beings, we can't. We tried to throw all of our conversations into that. We took everything you can communicate about, and because the people who created Twitter can't say, "Hey, this service is just for breaking news. It's just for irony bros and their dumb jokes. It's for memes, and that's what it excels at. And you should not try to do." I mean, they're not going to say that. They're going to say, "We want as many people on this platform as possible." So it really is up to us, the users, to, and I just feel like the problem stems from we don't look at the medium and figure out what's bad about it. So and maybe a better example is last night. I was, this is stupid, but someone posted a screenshot of a tweet to Facebook, and people were basically tearing apart what the tweet said, and it was like it was a pastor trying to talk about some really grand sweeping idea and put it down into 140 characters. And I was looking at it and I was trying to understand what people were saying. I didn't really understand why people were firing back at it. And I just had the thought, like, one, the fact that it's 140 characters, there's so much room for people to take away whatever they want when it's a big idea like that. They could say, this is wrong because of this, or it's right because of this. And I was just thinking, I don't think pastors should be on Twitter other than, taking pictures of their breakfast and doing all the other stupid shit that we do. But if you really think you have a really important idea or concept, do not try to put it into 140 characters. That's just not the place to be. I don't understand the helpfulness. And that goes for politics. Yeah. That goes for, but I don't, no one seems to, or at least we're in our infancy with social media, and no one seems to, or we haven't figured out where to do certain things and where to not do other things. Does that sort of make sense? That was long-winded just to say, I don't think it's a asshole or a stretch thing to say, like what I just said, which is, hey, pastors, don't tweet about the resurrection because that's not helpful. And I'm at the edge of my thoughts, so I'm probably wrong about portion of this, but I don't feel bad saying that right now.
No, I think the best thing you said just now is that we haven't figured out how to say what, where.
Right. We just say everything and also, everywhere.
Yeah. Because we're all dying inside and we really just want human interaction and intimacy.
Mm-hmm. Cheers to that.
But yes, that is interesting because not to dwell on this, but the pastors who post things of that sort, the only ones who are going to respond to it are probably the ones who already believe those things. Yeah. And are just kind of like, amen, this made me feel good today. And that's fine, honestly, for the people who are blessed by that. Sure, that's fine. But you're right. That is not the time and place. That is not the format in which to say deep things on this silly platform. Right. That is only 140 characters.
Yeah. And it seems to be mostly about nuance, if you're talking about Twitter anyway. Just if you're trying to convey an idea that requires nuance, don't do it there. At least link to a blog or something where you had paragraphs worth of things to do. And even then, that's a step up, but even not, still has some of the same issues, I would say. But I've had all these not conversations, but social media is one of the things that's at the front of my mind a lot. And usually when I have a topic or whatever that's on my mind a lot, I get annoyed with myself and just want to say, stop thinking about hypotheticals or whatever, and just be like, well, what do you do practically? And it's interesting with Bo specifically because you go on his Twitter account, he tweets once every 3 months or something. And he really very much practices what he's preaching there. And in the podcast, he talked about how people, this is a whole nother thing, but he talked about, how much all that stuff is able to be thrown away. And he's like, I toil for 2 years on a thing and people start saying, oh, remember Bo? Like, what happened to Bo? Where'd you go, man? And he's like, I'm working on a thing and I'm trying to get it to be good so that you can see it and just wait, Yeah. So, he's very much, like I said, practicing what he's preaching, and it's interesting. So, to bring it back, it's like, what do I do? Like, I'm always constantly pulling back from social media, but do I need to have a personal Twitter account? Do I need to have at Andy Othling? I don't know. And there's the scale of it. Like Bo has so many followers, he can't even just to say thank you to everyone who said a nice thing. There's not enough time in the day to do that. Whereas for me,
Right.
there's very much enough time to say thank you to someone who said a very
Mhm.
nice thing. And I do, that's what I try to do for the most part is people who say nice things, I want to say thank you because I can, and it's not that overwhelming yet. And I do
Right.
realize that. So it's kind of, the scale of it changes it a little bit, but for the most part, go ahead.
No, you're saying good stuff, man. I mean, this episode is a little scattery, but I want to move on from this. But I will say, I actually am glad that you use, lowercase noises things separately from Andy Othling things.
Yes.
because your personal account is sort of where you just make jokes and can say cynical comments in the moment when you feel them.
Yeah.
But you keep your lowercase noises account very respectful
Yeah.
of the people who are there just for that,
Yes.
and in that sense, it is a good way of informing people. And in the cultural landscape that we are in, that's almost the only way, other than,
Yeah.
I mean, it's all based on the internet just about
Right.
anymore, is the way that people find out about things.
Right.
And a thought occurred to me that in saying all of this, at least from my end, I just want people my age or people in general who are using these things to be healthy human beings and
Yes.
to sort of, like I'm not trying to be snooty at all, because anything that we're calling out here, I am guilty of
Yes.
myself. But it's just that I just want to acknowledge that something about this feels icky and
Yes.
wrong, and that we've all come under using these things incorrectly in the hopes that we could get some sort of human interaction out of them.
Yeah.
Or even, frankly, we're hoping that we go viral somehow. And even though that's so childish, it's like we've all done it. And I don't know. I personally just want to encourage people to be more real in regular life outside of the internet and outside of all this stuff, because it isn't real. It's not lasting. You're not going to remember what you read on Twitter last week, but you might remember the book that you were reading last week.
Right. Well, yeah, there's so much of that too. It's, the idea of, you can take a picture of a sunset and spend a few minutes doing a filter and throw it up. You could do that, something like that every day, and you feel creatively fulfilled. But what you're doing is just putting out throwaway stuff that only has like a 7-hour span of usefulness to anybody. And that kind of thing can keep you from doing a piece of creative work that might take a year to complete. There's something, when I write an album and you write a book or do whatever, like it's because we have a thing inside of us that says, like, you need to create something. Like, it feels kind of uncomfortable if you're not doing it or haven't done it. And, tweets and Instagrams with fancy filters fill that in a very shallow way. And if you do it enough, you can completely shut that thing off and you're never going to actually accomplish anything. So, I mean, that's sort of where I go on, is like, we are potentially, it's ironic because, the internet kind of promised, like, oh, anybody can do anything. We have all these things at our disposal, but it seems like some of this is actually stifling the good things that could come out of it. And that kind of brings me to, I don't know, we both did a similar thing to our phones, which is that both my wife and your wife turned on the accessibility,
the restrictions.
The restrictions on our phones. So there's a 4-digit passcode that only our wives know. And for mine, I just have it so I turned off Safari. I don't have any browser. I'm not able to install any apps. And I don't have any social media on my phone. Is that how you do yours too, basically?
Yeah, that's exactly right. Yeah.
And it's only been a couple weeks, 2-3 weeks, and it's been great. How's your experience been with that?
Mine's been for quite a while, but
yeah,
it's good because the compulsion to check those things needlessly 17 times a day is taken away.
Yeah.
And it just, I don't know, there is something so freeing about removing those from your life that then you realize you can do the things. Almost always when those are taken away and I have a free moment to do them, I end up reading a book instead.
Right.
Which is what I used to do anyway before I had a smartphone.
Right.
And so it's like, anyway, that was a long answer, but yeah, it's wonderful. And so to even get more specific, so once a week I have my wife unlock my phone. I install Instagram and whatever, Facebook, and I share the things related to Ink and Echo, and then I immediately delete them. Because I don't want those there.
Yeah.
And I don't have Safari, so I won't look at porn. I mean, that's frankly the reason that I don't have it there, because if I have access to it, I will.
Right.
So there's that. But
totally. Well, and even for me, my wife and I were talking about it, just it's so stupid, but looking at my phone while I'm driving, which is stupid and terrible, but when I just can't, I really do feel like it was a rewiring of my brain. Like I used to just, compulsively go down to my dash and like click it on and see if something happened or whatever, but that's kind of going away, which feels really good. And also I'm not going to kill myself literally. So that's just the practical thing. So, hey, all you kids out there, find a buddy, find a partner, get a smartphone buddy, and turn on the restrictions on your phone, and be good boys like us, because it's really good for you. That's what. And
in the words of Wilford Brimley, it can help you live a better life. That may have been in reference to diabetes, but it can also apply to this.
Yes.
Ding. Andy, I'd say it's probably time for a word from our sponsor. I have plenty more to say.
Yeah. I think you're right. Here we go. Okay. Listen here, Josh. Both of us have mustaches. Do you agree with that?
Yeah.
Yeah. Yours is very nicely manicured. Mine is basically a piece of shit on my face. My whole facial hair thing is a mess. It comes about because of laziness. Because you know what? I don't have to look good. I don't have to go to an office. I look like crap. Anyway, we both have mustaches. That's the point. And Josh, one of the worst things about a mustache is when it gets a little too long and it starts kind of, getting on your lip and getting in your mouth, and even gets so long that you kind of like bite it and you pull out little hairs. That sucks, right? Wouldn't you say?
It interrupts your eating process. Yeah.
Sure. Well, funny you should mention eating, because today's sponsor is, again, solving a big problem. What we have today is a sponsor similar to Tripping Balls. It's a pharmaceutical, a pill, you might say. And what these guys do is, this is amazing. You take a pill once a day, and after a while, it targets just your mustache hair, and it turns it into an edible treat. How do you feel about that, Josh?
Oh, man. I'm going to say I'm probably a skeptic on this one.
Are you?
But I'd like to hear more.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well,
Sounds a little disgusting.
today's sponsor their name is Fedible Follicles. And so, like I said, what happens is you take a pill every day, and eventually your mustache turns edible. And the cool thing is there's so many different flavors to choose from. So, because you want to be able to choose your flavor. So, listen to this, Josh. I'm gonna rattle off some of these flavors here, and then I'll tell you some more of the features of this project. So, listen to this. There's Zesto Pesto. There's Sriracha Surprise. There's Orange is the New Smack. There's Lamming It Up. Zucchini Slumber Party. Bitter Barley Bonanza. Mincemeat Menagerie. Salami Sunrise. Peck on This Pickled Pepper. And, of course, Deviled Excellent. And,
oh, my word.
Yeah, doesn't that just sound delicious? So imagine, you're in a meeting at work. You're a little hungry, or you just want some taste in your mouth. You just kind of...
Oh, my.
Can you hear me doing it? You kind of just, pull your lip up. Pull the hair in and just get a little morsel.
It sounds so delicious. I'm gagging in my mouth.
That's the response they want. Yeah. And
Good.
Josh, I've made no make no mistake about it. I've been very upfront about my love of Flamin' Hot Cheetos.
Right.
Got it on my semi. The custom paint job. So they have the flavor for me, and I've got it right now. However, they were not able to license the name, the Flamin' Hot Cheeto name. So they have a flavor called Cheatin' Hot Flamos. So that's what I have. And listen to this. You're gonna love this. Depending on what state you're in, so Washington, Colorado, you can get certain strains. Might I say?
Oh.
Mm-hmm. So there's the Windy Indica and Sativa in the Sky with Diamonds. And once again, based on the laws in your state. So side effects of this, I have to say the side effects of Fedible Follicles might include development of rectangular horizontal pupils, general ear enlargement, growing of horns on the head, general hoof development, aka GHD, or sudden milk production from a sudden udder development. So isn't that great? You don't even have to shave your mustache anymore. You just like I said, you just bite off little pieces.
That's great.
So thank you to Fedible Follicles, and they've got a little not a jingle, not necessarily a catchphrase, but I'll just read it to you right now. This is their little saying. Fed fi fo fum, I smell the blood of an Englishman. Be he alive or be he dead, Fedible Follicles taste great in your head. So
cute.
You guys can go to inkandecho.com/Fedible Follicles. That's FEDIBLE. inkandecho.com/Fedible Follicles. And you can get 50% off your first order with free shipping. So, great. It's over. Well, we took care of that order of business.
Got that all spick and span.
Yeah. All right. What did you want to talk about now?
I'd like to talk about memory. And I'm serious.
Memory?
I'm sorry. I'm still chewing a chip.
Memory?
No. Good job dinging yourself.
Thanks.
Ding head.
Memory, huh? Lay it on me.
Yeah, I think this is relevant. Sorry,
Okay.
I finally swallowed my chip.
We'll wait for you.
I think that in our culture, overall, there is a general lack of or lessening of memory happening, short term and long term, that people's attention spans are certainly much shorter, and that their long-term memory has been severely, I don't know if damaged is the right word, but
Hindered.
interrupted. Well, and see, this matters to me because at least I am the kind of person who thinks about when I am 60 or 70, I want to be able to remember things well. I want my brain to stay healthy overall, I guess is the point of this. And I feel that with no arrogance, this may be purely biological. I have a pretty good memory for certain things that matter to me, but this has happened to me enough to notice with friends and things that people my age and even people in between 18, 25, their memories are terrible. And I think it is honestly because everything is just going faster and faster as far as what we absorb, our day-to-day lives. Everything is picking up speed and everything is being lent to this idea of making things more convenient and more fast. And I actually don't think that's good. It's obviously helpful in some ways, but if you never take the time to slow down,
Right.
I think you're going to find yourself absorbing a whole lot of garbage that gets lost literally within a 24-hour cycle.
Right.
And something about that just feels wrong to me and unhealthy on a neurological level.
Yeah. But
and so, go ahead.
I was going to say, with all of this, like, I love talking about this, but I've experienced this in different scenarios where you kind of bring up a problem, and
Me?
then no, just like you, like I will bring up a problem, and then someone will respond to be like, yeah, man, I agree. But you know that they're they're either part of the problem or they will not change, even though they agree that there is a problem.
Right.
And so, like, what? Because I'm sure there's people listening to this, and I'm hopefully maybe someone has the idea to lock themselves out of their phones like we did. But what's the solution? Because that was another thing on the Bo podcast where they were talked about, you know, not only do you tear down a barn, but you should build one up after, which I think I mostly agree with. I think there's sometimes where there's certain barns that don't need to exist and we could just tear them down. But I do agree for the most part. So what? Okay, yeah, memory bad, going away. What do we do?
Yeah. Right. Well, so I'm sorry, I need to take a drink of water. Having a lot of plosives here because my mouth is dry.
I don't think that's how it works. That's not how plosives work.
There's a lot of mouth sounds going on. I mean, I'm not the singer from Mumford & Sons. I'm having way too many nuances in my speech here. Okay, my solution is, at least in my own life, what I've observed and taken action in is that, I mean, first of all, I'm a reader, as you know. I think that people in general should just read more books or even read more. No, I guess it's just books, because I'm not going to say internet articles and newspapers are largely going away. But I think reading is actually exceptionally healthy for your brain, and just taking an extended period of time, and by that I mean it could be an hour, to just, be away and absorb something and think about words and let your brain do something different than absorb 150 tweets in a row in 5 minutes.
Right.
Because you're not going to remember those. And I think the fear is, sorry, I will get back to the solutions, but my fear is that people at this point could go through their entire lives, and they're probably not going to recognize this, but it's like they spent their whole lives doing pointless shit
Yes.
and just reading garbage that they don't remember the next day, that doesn't challenge them or change them, that doesn't actually benefit them or anyone else. And they're going to be 70 and they're going to wonder why they have fucking Alzheimer's because, because they just looked at their stupid phones their whole life.
Yeah.
That's bad. That's real bad. Like, I can't imagine the nursing homes that will exist when we are of that age. I actually kind of hope I'm dead by then. But, and anyway, I do honestly think reading a book is the answer, and reading something other than the Hunger Games or Divergent or Harry Potter for the 7th time, like maybe challenge yourself a little bit with something that's actually good.
Wait a second.
I would also say
Harry Potter, are those bad?
Harry Potter's good.
Okay.
It's fine, but I know people who read nothing else than the 7 Harry Potter books over and over.
For real? That's
Yeah.
the thing? Okay.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, that I'll agree that's a problem.
And those are fun. I've read all those series, but I run into people so often that have read 3 books in the past year, and it was the Divergent series. And the Divergent series is garbage.
I don't even know what
terrible. It's terrible.
Okay.
It's the watered down poor man's Hunger Games. Anyway, I'm getting off track. I think a good experiment, or not even experiment, but just a good practice, is also to leave your phone at home and go on a walk, whether you have a family or not, or go on a hike or something, because I swear, or I promise you, there will be moments where you go to grab for your phone to take a pretty picture. You realize it's not there, and it's like, that's great. Actually, I don't need to take a stupid picture.
Yeah, like, I'm
Why don't
here
I
right
stand
now.
here?
Right.
Yes. Why don't I stand here and look at it with my eyeballs and actually remember something instead of taking a picture?
Hey, this brings up a thing. I mean, I think there's, and this is maybe going to sound arrogant on my part, but I've taken a couple vacations and purposefully not posted basically any pictures from it.
Yeah.
Because and again, maybe you could swing too far the other way, but I'm like, I don't, like, screw everyone who thinks they need to know I'm on vacation. Like, this is for me and my family, and I'm not telling anyone about it. And it's mine. It's all mine. It's not yours. I don't need to post a damn picture every day from the beach or whatever. So maybe there's a little of too much pushback from that, but yeah, there's certain things where I'm like, this is mine. You can't have it. I'm not sharing it with all of you. And I wish more people would have at least a little bit of that. You know what I mean?
Yeah. I mean, that's maybe swinging a little far only in your attitude towards it.
Well, I'm overdoing it in my speech a little bit, but
sure.
It was true. I went on vacation. I was like, I don't, this is for me and my family, and it doesn't matter it doesn't matter if anyone else knows that I'm on vacation. It's pointless information for everybody else. That's really what it is. Yeah.
And that there was a time in this world where you would go on vacation, nobody knew you came back, and the only way that anybody would know about it is that you're sitting down with them for a talk, and you share in conversation how much you enjoyed something, and it's like an experience as opposed to constant updates on where you are via photo.
Right. Yeah. Well, and Bo talked about it too, the idea of doing something for the social media purposes, and basically I mean there was a time in my life where I would have gone on these vacations and documented the shit out of it because I wanted people to see that I was on a vacation.
Yeah.
But I think that's part of the thing of now people are doing things just so they can document them, and that is like horrendous to me when you really, really think about what that is.
Right.
And yeah, and again it goes back to like what is Instagram useful for? And I mean that one's less clear to me because it's not. I mean, maybe following some like artist who posts paintings, or I mean, actually, there's a guy I follow called his name's Kevin Russ, and he literally makes his living on Instagram. But he backpacks and rides on trains with hobos and takes pictures of life, and that's really interesting to me and cool.
Yeah.
But so much of it is not that, and it's not valuable.
Right.
So yeah, there's me on that.
Yeah, I think it's I mean, I guess a general, we are taking ourselves out of physical human experience in order to share that experience later.
Yes.
This is relevant. I was at my sister's wedding this past weekend, and they actually put in the wedding program, please leave your phone in your pocket while the bride walks down the aisle, and for the whole wedding, actually, because it was just this idea of, obviously everybody can be a photographer now, so to speak,
right.
but they were just
That's
more so
interesting.
asking people, hey, please just enjoy this with us instead of taking a pictures that you can look at
Well,
later.
yeah, and the whole point, we invited you to witness this thing. Like, please actually witness it.
Right.
Yeah.
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 Good thing we agree on that.
Yeah. I didn't necessarily want to bring this up, but I am. And so I don't want to say this at all disparagingly. So my family and I, we went and took family photos last night.
Mm-hmm.
We had a friend do it for us, and apparently we went to a spot that's very popular with photographers or people doing this type of photography.
Sure.
And once again, like, I'm so glad we took family pictures. You know, it'll be great for the rest of our lives to be able to look back and see what we looked like in my stupid hair, my stupid facial hair, whatever. But it was weird because we parked, we walked into the trees in the forest or whatever, and I think we ran into at least 4 other photographers. There were only photographers there. And I just had the thought, I mean, one, it's just weird being in this beautiful place, and just the only thing that's happening is documenting things.
Oh yeah.
So that
like
was
there were no hikers just being like, the
right.
vast beauty of this spot.
Right. I mean, there were some like bikers who went through who just wanted us to get out of the way. But and so again, I'm not like I love that we took pictures. Probably everyone there, it's really good that they took pictures. But it was just strange, like seeing like, okay, we're going to be on this log now once those guys are gone, because it's a cool log for us to take pictures on. I mean, that really happened. But I had the thought, like,
yeah.
With the rise of social media, that had to correlate to a rise in that sort of photography business. And I'm honestly trying to, like, please take pictures of your family. Like, don't swing so far away from this stuff that you just don't document anything. But I was just thinking, you know, how many of these people are taking these pictures because they're like, oh, this is going to look sick on Facebook. I'm going to get so many likes, and like, this professional photographer is going to make me look so good, and it's going to be my profile picture for the next year. Like, that's honestly not my thought at all. It's definitely not my wife's thought, so I don't feel bad about what we did. But that has to be some people's thought, unless I'm just being an old man jerk about it.
No, I think you're absolutely right.
But God, it just felt so weird to be in this beautiful, you know, the trees are yellow. We were down by the Bosque, by the Rio Grande.
Oh, okay.
The leaves are yellow. It's a beautiful area. But yeah, we were all just like behind we were all being photographed. It's just so weird. I guess that's all I have to say about it. It's just a strange experience. And I don't know how many people. I hope people don't feel normal in that situation. I don't know.
Yeah,
Because
I
I
know what you mean.
didn't, and I don't know if that's good or what. But anyway, I don't know if I hijacked your thing or not, but that was the thing that happened to me last night.
Yeah, no, that's related. Um, and it's funny because I personally know a lot about that because Emmy, my wife, is a photographer and
Right.
has run into so many similar things here in Colorado. But um, yeah, I mean it would surprise me a little if anyone went out for the purpose of sharing it on social media, but yeah, having a professional photo taken, having it edited really well so that you look gorgeous, your family looks happy, and then yeah, knowing the sort of response you will get on social media and um, all of those people who have commented or liked are just like they die a little inside because they're like, oh, that family is happier than I am.
They're perfect.
Now I need to go take a photo.
Right.
And that's how it spreads.
Mm-hmm.
Hey, we solved it.
We did.
Oh boy. I mean, I feel like the message here, because the message here is we just want people to be people in real life and just try separating yourself from these things that we've all become used to using every day.
Yeah.
And it's like we're not going to stop technology. The growth and the new things that come out are not going to change or stop overall.
You can't close the
I guess,
Pandora's box.
right. And I guess we could individually choose to separate from them completely. I do think there are people who will get rid of their smartphones and will get off of the internet altogether. That's probably already happening. But so it's like, yeah, we can't change the shift, but I just, for the health of our species and the longevity of our culture, frankly, and for my child's generation and yours, that just something about this universally does not feel right or good.
Yes.
And I think the fear is that there are so many people who go through their day without even thinking about it once,
Right.
and that's actually what's more scary. Not as if Andy and I are some sages of the world or something, or that we're so smart or so, relevant or anything, but it's just we recognize this, and so we want to call it out.
Yeah. And I think one thing, and it's probably a lot because of this podcast, the fact that I'm having to speak aloud thoughts in my head. But I think one thing I'm realizing is personally, and I didn't even really realize how much that I value art. And I didn't really realize how many of my opinions stem from trying to protect art or encourage other people to do it in a good way, in a like true to themselves way. Because I think what I'm realizing is that's the common thread between some of my strong opinions being I feel like the North American institutional church is doing a very poor job, very, very poor job with art. I feel like social media is really hampering people's art. And other things. I just feel like that's the catalyst for all my thoughts on this. Like otherwise I don't know if I'd really care, but for whatever reason, and I mean I guess everybody cares about art to some extent, maybe not, I don't know, but I'm realizing in myself. I mean, obviously I know that I've cared about art and like music and movies and whatever, but I'm realizing more and more that I really want people to be free to do it. Like if I had to proselytize something, it would be how to free yourself to express yourself creatively. If you have any such inkling or inclination, So that's I'm not trying to look at social media as like I just it's annoying what these younger kids are doing or whatever, but I'm looking at its negative effects and looking around and seeing what it's doing to art around us. And I mean, I don't know if you could. I mean, do you feel the same way? Is that where this stuff is coming from for you, or is it different?
I think that's certainly an aspect of it. Yeah.
Yeah. Because I don't know if I have a lofty idea. Like you mentioned, saving the human species earlier, and I mean, it's such a grand thing. Like I don't know if my mind encompasses that, but I just very specifically think about art, and I want it. And another part of the podcast, Bo was talking about YouTube, and he was basically saying YouTube's a failure in that the what it's turned into, the art it's putting out, is just so much the same as what you'd see on like a corporate cable channel now. Like the stuff it's touting, like there's big YouTube billboards in LA, I guess, for all these shows, and they look exactly the same. Like these whole done up celebrities, they don't look like real people and whatever. And he was like, YouTube's a failure. And so it's, and he's talking as a guy who got his big break from YouTube. But
Right.
basically he's saying, I think the same thing I'm saying, but it's just like he values art, and it's just so weird that this system that promised such creative and artistic freedom seems to be either turning into the same old thing of corporate interests taking over and money maybe, or just doing something more insidious to keep us from doing good art. And I mean, that's not to say there's plenty of people doing great things.
Of course.
And I don't want to minimize
across all these mediums. Yeah,
exactly.
There's people using it well.
But I do think I agree with him in the sense that they've failed on the larger scale, and we have. I was talking to Megan about something earlier about how I think it was a This American Life podcast or something. We have more access than anybody else to like know facts about things, and yet, I mean, this is particular to the election cycle bullshit that's happening. But people almost more than ever are ignoring facts in things. So it's just so weird that the opportunities we're gaining from the internet and these things, in a lot of areas, we seem to be actively ignoring them or denying them in a weird way.
Yeah, there's a lot to think about with that.
Sorry, that was I feel like I'm just constantly. Do you feel like I'm taking what you're saying and just shutting it down and saying my own thing on top of it?
No,
'Cause that's not what I'm trying to do.
Nope, not at all.
Okay.
Yeah, what your comment about YouTube in particular made me think about was, if I think back to the first time I even heard the term YouTube and realized it existed, at that time, that was maybe 10 years ago or more, it was, oh my gosh, there's a place on the internet where these silly home video movies I made with my friends, I can actually put somewhere and share with people. That's so cool. Like, what a cool idea and service. And so, yeah. And I think if you trace the genesis of all these things, they maybe started out as something not necessarily good, but just, it wasn't for the sake of business, I don't think.
Yes.
Twitter, it was sort of like, what is Twitter? It's kind of just like a Facebook status.
Like,
but
why
that's
would you
all it
limit
is.
how long my statement can be? Like, why would I do that?
Yeah. And Instagram, it was sort of like, well, now we have these phones that can take pictures and we can put funky colors on them and just kind of put them out there. That's fun. It all started sort of innocently, I think, at least as far as evaluating my own approach to each of these things.
I agree.
It was like, oh, this is new. This is cool.
And I do think that it's not on the creators of the product to like warn us of here's the wrong way to use it. I think that would be wrong. I really do think it's on us to like, oh, guess what? Use our fucking brains and think about what's happening, you know? Observe and think critically about what's happening on Instagram and Facebook and Twitter. Wait, but your comment about the videos, I mean, you probably remember Pete Holmes in the podcast talked about how, you know, he'd do the home videos when he was little, and then make a movie with his friends, and then would tape over it to do another one.
Yeah.
And so, I mean, that's, so you talk about the draw of YouTube being like, hey, this thing I did, I can like put it somewhere and share it with people, which is, again, not a bad thing, but it has an insidious element to it, which is from that, it's like, it literally is I don't want to use that word that way. It is a Pandora's box that we opened it, and now everything is shareable content, and there's no, you know, it's almost like we've taken away that thing where it's like, I just want to create for creating's sake. And I even wrote it down. You know, Pete was talking about in that section, you know, people, the key of the whole thing is people need to make things, even if they knew that it was going to get deleted the next day, you'd still want to make that thing, you know?
Yeah.
But we have this thing now where it's like, hey, I'm going to make a thing, but there's constantly in the back of everyone's heads is it could go viral. It could be the next hit or something. And I think that is bad. That is really bad. I think people should push against that and say, I want to shut it off. I don't want to know how many likes this might get on Facebook or whatever. I've got to focus on what I love to do and create. And it just sucks because I feel like everything that's come about has made that harder. Everyone has to consider more when creating anything, and I think that sucks. Do you agree with me or not?
No, I do. Although in a way, I feel like there's a very simple answer to it. It's not simple to carry out, but it is a simple answer, which is just, make things and don't share it anywhere, and just have it be just practice or just for your own enjoyment or just because you've been gifted to do that thing.
Yeah.
I love this topic because I think about it a lot, and kind of like the thing I shared long ago about doing puzzles in my room by myself. Mm-hmm. That's not necessarily a creative thing, but it is a solitary thing. And just thinking back to that same time period, I used to just build crazy things with Legos, or I drew an entire 48-page comic book with social media did not exist. The internet didn't exist at that time. And I did it because
the fame monster hadn't come down yet.
Yeah. And one time even, I'm sorry, I'm just at this point just sharing about myself.
No, it's good.
I'm sharing on this platform. So I loved the 30-minute television special Meet the Raisins, about the California raisins, the claymation special. Uh-huh. And so out of clay, I crafted each character into these little figurines, and I mean, it took me hours and hours of time alone in my room. And why did I do that? Just because I liked to do it. I'm not
right.
Yeah.
You weren't going to take a picture of it and see what people thought of it later.
Yes. I really like the idea of doing things because we as individuals love doing them and making things not for the sake of sharing.
Do you feel like you've done that lately? When's the last time you remember doing that?
Yeah, that usually for me happens in the scenario of drawing or doodling.
Yeah.
And I very rarely have free time to do this anymore, but I love just putting on a record, putting on an album, and drawing for a while, and just kind of letting my thoughts go to a very different place. And there's something very cathartic about that and relaxing.
This is a similar but much sillier version of that experience. So the new Korn album came out on this past Friday, or a couple Fridays ago, and I absolutely loved the 4 songs that came out before the album. And I don't remember the last time I did this, other than the times I've been on an airplane or something. But I just sat at my desk and listened to the album straight through. Like I wasn't even driving anywhere, and I didn't really even look at anything or do anything else.
Yeah.
And part of the reason for that is nostalgia, but just because the new songs sound a lot like their old songs, and so it's kind of a surreal experience to hear, the same sound I heard 10 years ago, but different songs, but they're new. Right. But yeah, it felt fun to just sit in my room, and I just listened to the album. But
yeah,
the thing that sucked is I did post the cover to Instagram.
You killed it. It's all worthless.
But then I deleted it a couple days later. It's not there now.
Okay, good.
But now I just said,
back to
good boy listening to good tunes or something. I was unashamed 30-year-old. Which I shouldn't have done that. That's why I deleted it. I was like, that was stupid. Most things I post anywhere, I'm like that. I was dumb. Did you know on my Twitter, I have an app installed thing that automatically deletes all my tweets after they're a week old?
Nice.
Yeah.
What a thing.
Yeah.
That exists.
Yeah. That's the thing.
Talk about throwaway content.
Well, that's what's funny too, is I very much want ephemerality on the internet. That's why I didn't get Snapchat for the longest time, but then I realized, you post a picture and then it's gone in 24 hours. That's actually a step forward, I think. So it's like, here's me right now, and you didn't catch it in 24 hours. It's gone. I think that's actually kind of cool. I don't use Snapchat anymore, and whatever, but I think that's an interesting development, I would say, in the right direction for social media. Not that I'm using it or want to use it, but that's a whole nother thing.
Make all the services dissolve so quickly that people just stop using them, because it's like, well, dang it, I'm just missing everything. So
right, I got 2,000 retweets and then it deleted itself. Then who am I after that? I can't prove that I had 2,000 retweets. Yeah.
Right. Yeah.
Hey, all of this brings up, well, basically, you need to watch the new season of Black Mirror, and then we should talk about it. Maybe here, maybe not. I don't know.
Probably not here.
Okay.
But I am down with that television program.
Okay.
There's a part of me that wants to go into how Stranger Things isn't actually a good show. But it's probably not the time, because it's sort of late, and how the entire everything that Marvel has ever made and all the comic book movies are actually garbage. But
Bo said that too in the podcast. He's like, can we find another metaphor other than superheroes for anything?
Yeah, and it just goes. I mean, again, I'm not being a snooty anything. I just think people don't realize what they're taking in and how completely without value it is. And that there are other pieces of art in the world that will challenge your brain and your opinions and your thoughts, and that Oh, I don't know. Maybe you should be an adult and stop spending a bunch of time in comic book stores and
answer your emails. And
hey, that opinion for me has changed actually because of this show. I've grown. Yes.
I've not grown because of this show at all.
Yeah, it's true. No, my heart has been softened in that regard.
Aww.
You might say towards people.
You're like the Grinch. Your heart grew a couple sizes.
One size bigger. It hasn't broken the little golden thing that was put around it.
Okay.
I haven't rushed down to Whoville.
Right. Okay.
And distributed flip flonkers and zoopers to all the.
Well, you'll get there, I guess. Maybe.
Do you have a comment this week?
My comment ties in to everything we've talked about, but I want it to be the last thing. I don't want to discuss it. I just want it to be, well, do we want to end this thing?
I feel like for now, okay. We're good.
Well, okay.
And we'll do more of these.
If we're going to do that, then I would say, again, go listen to Bo Burnham, number 3 on You Made It Weird by Pete Holmes podcast thing. Give it your 3 hours. Don't check Twitter while you listen to it. Because it goes literally everywhere I'd want that conversation to go. And I just, it was very valuable to me as someone who's creating art. And, you know, if that's you, then please listen.
Yeah, it's worth your time. And if you resonate with anything Andy and I have said here, it's worth listening to. And I don't know. I mean, I can count on one hand the amount of podcasts I've gone back and listened to more than once, and this is one of them.
This is the only one that I've listened to multiple times, this episode. Right. So yeah, I'm with you. Anyway, my comment, which I'm not going to play the theme song.
Okay.
Did you hear about, this happened today. Did you hear that Twitter is shutting down Vine?
No.
Vine is effectively dead in a couple months. They're going to shut it down.
Okay.
Which Bo mentioned Vine in the podcast. But okay, this is going to tie it all together perfectly. It's great. Bo, I followed him on Twitter since when I heard the podcast. He hasn't tweeted since, and he just posted a Vine today. Because of the news that Vine was going to be dead. Do you remember his thoughts on Vine from the podcast, Josh?
Yeah.
Okay. So I'm just going to play. I recorded the audio from his Vine. I'm just going to play it, and then I'm going to play the outro music, okay?
Okay.
You ready?
I just want to say sincerely that this app was fun for 3 months, and then it sucked dick. Have fun in hell.
Yeah, thank you, Bo. That was quite right.